Good morning. We are studying about the prophets in the Old Testament, and as Karen and Lance have told us, the prophets were special men who spoke for God. Elisha is the prophet that we're studying right now, and we've heard two other stories about Elisha. In the stories, both of those stories, Elijah helped people. He loved God and he obeyed God, and he tried to help the people of Israel obey God too. So today our story is in 2 Kings chapter 6, and it's verses 8 through 23. I'm going to read those verses to you. It's about two countries, and it's about three different armies. It's about showing kindness to others, and then it's also about Elijah. So I'm going to read that to you now. 2 Kings chapter 6, and we're going to start in verse 8. When the king of Aram was at war with Israel, he would confer with his officers and say, "We will mobilize our forces at such and such a place." But immediately Elijah, the man of God, the prophet we're studying, would warn the king of Israel, "Do not go near that place, for the Arameans are planning to mobilize their troops there." So the king of Israel would send word to the place indicated by Elijah, warning the people there to be on their guard. This happened several times. So the king of Aram became very upset over this. He called his officers in together for a meeting, and he said, "Which of you is the traitor? Who is informing the king of Israel of my plans?" One of them was brave enough to speak up. He said, "It's not us, my lord. Elijah, the prophet of Israel, tells the king of Israel even the words you speak in the privacy of your bedroom." The king commanded, "Go and find out where Elijah is, and we will send troops to seize him." And the report came back, "Elijah is at Dothan." So one night, the king of Aram sent a great many army with chariots and horses to surround the city. When the servant of the man of God got up early the next morning and went outside, there were troops, horses, and chariots everywhere. So Elijah's servant saw this, and he went to Elijah and he said, "Ah, my lord, what will we do now?" This frightened him to be surrounded by this army. Then Elijah told him, "Don't be afraid, for there are more on our side than on theirs." Then Elijah prayed, "O Lord, open his eyes and let him see." The Lord opened the servant's eyes, and when he looked up, he saw that the hillside around Elijah was filled with horses and chariots of fire. As the Aramean army advanced toward them, Elisha prayed, "O Lord, please make them blind." And the Lord did as Elijah asked. Then Elijah went out and told them, this is the enemy army, "You have come the wrong way. This isn't the right city. Follow me, and I will take you to the man you are looking for." And he led them to Samaria. As soon as they had entered Samaria, Elijah prayed, "O Lord, now open their eyes and let them see." And the Lord did, and they discovered that they were in Samaria. When the king of Israel saw them, he shouted to Elijah, "My father, should I kill them?" "Of course not," Elijah told him. "Do we kill prisoners of war? Give them food and drink and send them home again to their master." So the king made a great feast for them and then sent them home to their king. After that, the Aramean raiders stayed away from the land of Israel. Okay, so we learned about the two countries, and what countries were they? Aram and Israel. Aram and Israel. And we heard about three different armies. The Israelite army, the Aramean army, which was the enemy army, and what other army was there? God's invisible army. I've always loved this verse because I just can't imagine what that Elijah's servant saw when he looked out over the hills, and that servant's eyes were opened and he could see Elijah's invisible army. That's the name of the lesson today. I just can't imagine how magnificent that would be. I think it would be bigger and more vast than I could even imagine. So when we face difficulties that seem huge to us, like we're going through now with this pandemic, we need to think about this invisible army that God has. He has resources to help us through all of our problems. Some of us are facing difficulties. Jerry's facing a surgery. Our son's had back surgery. So when we go through difficulties, we need to realize there's a vast army out there to help us. In the first story, Elijah helped the widow pay off her debt by taking just a little bit of oil and pouring it into many different containers. That oil, a little bit of oil, filled up a lot of containers, and she was able to sell that and pay her debt. So that was something that wouldn't have been possible. God's army, God's resources helped her do that. And then last week, Lance's story was about a man with leprosy. And he went to Elijah to help heal him of this skin disease. And Elijah told him something very simple to do. Just go to the river, dip 7 times, and your skin will be healed. It was obvious it wasn't the water in the river that healed him. It was God, through the help of Elijah, that healed him. So we always need to remember God is there, and we don't need to be fearful. Fear is of Satan. We need to know that God is there for us. We can go to Him in prayer and seek answers to our problems. So we said it was about the 2 countries, the 3 armies, and then it's about a story of kindness. Is it normal for 2 armies to face each other, one to be surrounded and just feed them and send them on their way? That's not usually how countries battle each other. So our story is about showing kindness to others. Elijah showed mercy and kindness to this enemy army, and God wants us to do the same thing. He wants us to be kind and compassionate to everyone. Are we just supposed to be kind and compassionate to our family, or just our friends? No, we're supposed to be kind to everyone. We see people sometimes daily that are mean to us, that make us feel insignificant, but we're supposed to be kind and compassionate to everyone. Ephesians 4:31 is the verse in our book today, and it says, "Be kind to each other, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, just as God, through Christ, has forgiven you." Sometimes it's hard to be kind to others, right? But the verse tells us it's all because of Jesus in our life that we can do this. When we follow Jesus, we want to act like He did. We want to be like Him. Was Jesus kind and forgiving to others?
Yes.
Even to His death, He was forgiving those that had persecuted Him. And He wants us to be that way as well. He wants us to be kind and forgiving. And He is there to help us. Remember that big invisible army. We can get strength from God, just like Elijah did, and He will help us to be kind to others. There's a study in your book. I know you don't have it, but this always helps us relate what we're studying to our life today. And it says, does God want us to show kindness and mercy, or does He want us to get even? And there's some situations written here. What should I do when someone hurts my feelings? Should I show kindness or try to get even?
Show kindness.
And we need to show kindness. What should I do when someone's mean to me? We need to be kind anyway. What should I do when someone insults me? We have to show kindness. What should I do when someone disrespects me? We have to show kindness. What should I do when someone ignores me? Or what should I do when someone angers me? And God never wants us to get even. He wants us to show kindness. The king of Aram in our story today declared war on God's people. And sometimes we feel like people are trying to fight us as well. But we need to be kind and compassionate to them anyway. The enemy surrounded Elijah. And sometimes I think we feel like we've been surrounded by enemies or problems or just circumstances in life. And we have to ask God to help us and then look for His answer. There's that invisible army there waiting to help us. The Bible tells us to be kind and compassionate to everyone. So maybe we can think of someone this week that maybe irritates us at work, or someone that is rude to us at the grocery store, or someone that we see at home, in our home, that angers us. And what does God want us to do? Show kindness and compassion to them. A lot of us in this room have a devotional that we read. And I wanted to read this to you because today it is this same verse, which I thought, Lord, you just show up and do wonderful things for us. And so I'd studied this lesson all week and prepared all this. And then this devotional is over the same scriptures in 2 Kings. So I'm going to read you what the Our Daily Bread devotional said this morning. The verse on the card Lisa received didn't seem to match her situation. Then the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he looked and saw the hills full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elijah. So that just really hit home to me after studying this lesson, the very same verse. She thought, I have cancer. I've lost a baby. A verse about angel soldiers just doesn't apply to me. Then the angels began to show up. Cancer survivors gave her their time and a listening ear. Her husband got released early from an overseas military assignment. Friends prayed with her, but the moment she most felt God's love was when her friend Patty walked in with 2 boxes of Kleenexes and placed them on the table and just started crying. Patty knew what she was going through. That meant more than anything, Lisa said. The card made sense now. My angel soldiers had been there all along. When an army besieged Israel, a host of literal angels protected Elijah. But Elijah's servant couldn't see them. What shall we do? He cried to the prophet. Elijah simply prayed, Open his eyes, Lord, so that he may see. When we look to God, our crisis will show us what truly matters and that we're not alone. We learn that